The footage presented from Final Destination originates from a fictional horror film. Any references to violence or mature content are purely fictional. All actions are executed by a professional cast and crew. The footage is intended solely for commentary and analytical purposes.
I got this feeling. The place can explode! It's not a joke! It's not a joke!
Final Destination is a supernatural horror flick from 2000, directed by James Wong. The screenplay was crafted by Wong, Glenn Morgan, and Jeffrey Reddick, who also came up with the original story. This film kicks off the Final Destination series and features actors like Devon Sawa, Ali Larter, Kara Smith, and Tony Todd. Sawa plays a teen who manages to dodge death after foreseeing a horrific plane crash. He and a few classmates get off the plane just before it goes down, but death has other plans and eventually claims the lives of those who were supposed to perish in the accident. Production of development. Jeffrey Reddick originally penned the concept as a spec script for the X-Files to land a TV agent. He shared, "I was flying back to Kentucky when I came across a story about a woman on vacation. Her mom called her saying, 'Don't take that flight tomorrow, I have a really bad feeling about it.' She changed her flight and the plane she would have been on ended up crashing." Reddick thought, "That's eerie. What if she was meant to die on that flight?" He developed this idea into a script and secured an agent, but instead of pitching it to the X-Files, he took a colleague's advice from New Line Cinema to adapt it into a feature film. New Line Cinema purchased Reddick's treatment and brought him on board to draft the original script, which depicted death as an unseen entity. Initially, the survivors were adults, but after the success of Scream, New Line requested that he switch them to teenagers. Once the script was complete, it was sent to various directors, including writing duo James Wong and Glenn Morgan. Both were interested in turning it into a film, though they made revisions to align it with their vision. Wong remarked, "I think we've all had moments where we felt something was going to happen. We get a gut feeling and then it turns out to be right." He added, "We aim to create the same kind of fear around planes and air travel that Jaws did for sharks and swimming." Expanding on his choice to write and direct the film, Wong elaborated, "One thing we were all in agreement on from the start is that we didn't want to do a slasher movie. I became very excited when we decided to make the world at large in the service of death our antagonist. Everyday objects and occurrences then take on ominous proportions, and it becomes less about whether or not our characters are going to die and more about how they will die and how they can delay their deaths. The entertainment value is in the ride, not in the outcome. And by placing the premise of the film on the inevitability of death, we play a certain philosophical note." Morgan said, "The main thing they wanted about death coming to get people is that you never saw a kind of a Michael Myers figure. You never saw a killer. And they liked that idea. And they said, Okay, go write it. Once we had a basic story, I started cataloging the strange coincidences in my own life. For example, I was in the Vancouver airport, waiting for a flight when John Denver came on over the loudspeaker. I remember saying to myself, hey, he just died in a plane crash. That's a little weird. We wrote that version of that experience into the script. Producers Craig Perry and Warren Zide from Zide/Perry Production played a key role in managing the film's budget, as they were both intrigued by the concept of an unseen force targeting its victims. Perry, who was a fan of the X-Files, mentioned that he was drawn to Wong and Morgan's work because of the sense of dread it evoked. New Line Cinema agreed to finance and distribute the film after Reddick approached them directly. Casting. One of the most important things we were looking for in casting was the actor's ability to play the subtleties, the little things that a character doesn't say or do that create the edge, the things that get under your skin and spook you, Morgan said about the auditions. Modam and Reddick initially had Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst in mind for the main roles, while Craig Perry thought Jessica Biel would be perfect for Clear River. The last role to be filled was Alex Browning, which went to Canadian actor Devon Sawa, known for his role in the 1999 film Idle Hands. Sawa mentioned that while reading the script on a plane, he found himself glancing out the window at the engine every few minutes. After meeting with Glenn and Jim, he was impressed by their ideas and energy. However, Morgan and Wong were unsure about casting him, so they asked him to audition again while they review his past performances. Morgan was particularly impressed by Sawa's work in Idle Hands, leading to his casting. Sawa remarked on the script, saying, "There aren't many good roles for my age. Most scripts are just teen ensembles that aren't great. But then I got Flight 180 and it was just awesome." Sawa described his character Alex as a bit quirky and not very popular in school, likely a dork who, along with his friends, was chasing after the pretty girls with no real chance. He noted that everything changes for Alex after the plane incident. Wong commented on Sawa's relatable qualities, saying, "He doesn't come off as overly confident. He feels like a regular kid who can handle the role's complexities and become a hero." Perry praised Sawa's ability to convey vulnerability, calling him a very unique actor. He's relaxed and funny off camera, but once the camera is rolling, he seamlessly transitions into the moment. Ali Larter, known for her role in the 1999 movie Varsity Blues, took on the role of Clear Rivers, the female lead. She shared, "The film illustrates how easy it is to turn against someone and place blame when fear sets in. It's also about having faith in your instincts and in yourself." Larter described her character as a girl who has experienced significant loss and has learned to find herself and create a life from that. She's an artist living alone, trying to hold on to what life has thrown her way. And William Scott, recognized for his role as Steve Stifler in American Pie, was cast as the class clown Billy Hitchcock. He appreciated the film's tone, stating, "It's as dark and eerie as any Twilight Zone episode." He found humor in his character, noting that he lacks social skills, has few friends, and is basically the sidekick. Scott was taken aback when he discovered that his character was originally written as overweight, but the writers later revised that detail for him. Kira Smith, famous for his role in Dawson's Creek, was chosen to play Jock Carter Horton. Smith characterized Carter as the typical high school bully whose life revolves around anger, and pointed out that Carter was afraid of Alex because he felt he was losing control over his own life. Kristen Cloak, who is married to Morgan, took on the role of teacher Valerie Luton. Cloak expressed her admiration for the team, saying, "I have immense respect for them." Jim is the type of director who has a clear vision of what he wants. As an actor, knowing exactly what I'm aiming for helps me get there, and Jim provides that clarity. His insistence on not moving forward until he gets it just right creates a safe space for me to explore and try new things. She described her character as strong and sassy, very much in control. After the crash, she really unravels, possibly more than any of the kids, and it's a sudden, dramatic shift. I had to grasp the mindset of someone who can change so quickly. Newcomers Amanda Detmer and Chad Donella were cast as students, Terry Chaney and Todd Wagner, respectively. Detmer shared, "When I first read the script, I was really impressed by how well developed the characters were and how believable their relationships felt. It's crucial to care about these characters, to feel concerned for their fates." She characterized Terry as very composed and seemingly happy to let Carter take the lead. She doesn't want to stir things up, but the stress of the situation impacts their relationship and interestingly reveals a hidden strength in her. Meanwhile, Donella noted how closely his character mirrored his own beliefs. "I believe in fate. I think we come into this life with certain goals, and our exit depends on the overall plan." Tony Todd, known for his role as Candyman in the 1992 film, was cast as the mortician William Bloodworth. Morgan initially chose Todd for this part because he thought Todd's deep voice would add an unsettling atmosphere to the film.
And you don't even want to with that Mac Daddy.
The cast also featured Daniel Roebuck and Roger Guimvere Smith playing FBI agents Wine and Shrek. Brendan Fear, Christine Chatelain, and Lisa Marie Carruth portrayed students George Wagner, Blake Dreyer, and Krista Marsh. Additionally, Barbara Tyson and Robert Wisdom took on the roles of Alice's parents, Barbara and Ken Browning, while Forbes Angus played the teacher, Larry Murnau. Filming. For the movie Final Destination, the cast shot the plane scene on Long Island and filmed other scenes on Vancouver Island. Since the cast was busy with other projects during production, the filming schedule had to be adjusted multiple times to accommodate everyone. Sawa limited his role in The Guilty while filming and joked about sharing a trailer with Bill Pullman, saying it was bigger and would make him look more famous.
Alex in the beginning is a guy, he's kind of low-key, him and Todd are probably not the most popular guys in school. I'm sure they're not dorks or anything like that, but they're to themselves. They got their own thing going, and they're after the two beautiful girls in the school, and there's no chance of that happening. And I guess after the plane goes down, his world completely changes.
Smith, known for his role in Dawson's Creek, had to pause episodes to work on the film.
This kid just lives on anger, and in this film he also lives on fear because he's afraid of Alex. And I don't think Carter feels that he's in control of his life in this film, and he doesn't like that. And he kind of expresses that with anger.
Come on! Get up! Get out!
If this really happened to me, I would be scared to death. Especially if some kid was in control of my life. I couldn't handle that. I'd probably do the same things as Carter.
Detmer mentioned that her death scene where she gets hit by a speeding bus was filmed first because it was both straightforward and highly anticipated.
And if you want to waste your life beating the shit out of Alex every time you see him, then you can just drop f***ing dead.
All the death scenes were created using life casts of the actual actors. The death scenes, memorial, forest scene, and Paris scenes were shot in Victoria, while additional footage was captured in Toronto and San Francisco. For the airport scenes, the crew used Vancouver International Airport to stand in for John F. Kennedy International Airport, which is referenced in the film.
I mean, she's had a lot of loss in her life, and she's kind of closed herself off to the world. And when she has this connection with Alex, through everything that they go through together and believing him, and it almost opens her heart up to the hope that she could maybe have a family, that she could actually trust people again, that people could be in her life and she could have human contact and love from others. So I think it's that whole arc of her, kind of being separated from the world to being able to be like, functioning and loving and being true and open, to life.
starts to shake, right? And the left side blows up, and then the whole plane just explodes.
Where this movie has, I mean, it has everything in it. There's the, there's the love story. There's, the amazing thing that happens between me and Alex. There's, the horror aspect of it, the drama, and there's so many different parts of this movie, which I think makes it really special.
Effects. The behind-the-scenes strategy was to craft a captivating visual identity, to enhance the nuances of the script and embody the concept of death. Production designer John Willett came up with the idea of skewing the sets. What I aimed for with the set designs and color selections was to create an atmosphere that feels slightly off. Willett shared it's not about drawing attention to itself, but rather instilling a sense of discomfort, the nagging feeling that something is amiss. To create this eerie vibe, Willett designed 2 variations of nearly every set, one for scenes before the crash and another for those following the jet explosion. On the skew sets, I manipulate the perspective either vertically or horizontally, Willett noted. Nothing is perfectly square, and while you might not be able to pinpoint it, it gives you the impression that something is off. This skewing concept also influenced the overall color scheme for both set, decoration, and costumes. In reality, colors are vibrant and rich, Willett explained. In this skewed environment, they appear dull and faded. The differences are subtle, but when combined, they create a powerful effect. The intense plane scene where passengers meet their fate mid-flight was filmed on a massive sound stage. An automatic 3-ton hydraulic gimbal was used for the action, special effects supervisor Terry Sonderhoff shared. We dedicated 2 months to constructing this main set piece, which weighs around 45,000 pounds and accommodates 89 people. This setup was essential for capturing the onboard moments, allowing for a realistic tilt of up to 45 degrees side to side and 60 degrees front to back, effectively simulating the terror of an engine failure in the air. Sawa noted that the cast screams inside the gimbal added to the authenticity. Wong added, "You step into the studio and see this enormous gimbal with a plane on top, and you think, what have I gotten myself into? I was worried we'd have 40 extras getting sick." For the explosion scene, a detailed miniature model of a Boeing 747 was crafted. This model, one of the most intricate in the film, measured about 10 feet long and 7 feet wide, with landing gear made entirely of machined metals. Visual effects supervisor Ariel Velasco Shaw explained that the miniature needed to be launched about 40 feet into the air to convincingly depict a real Boeing 747 burst into flame. If they were to blow up a 4-foot model, the explosion would need to occur at least 8 feet off the ground. To capture the explosion in all its glory, the crew utilized 3 cameras filming at 120 frames per second and 1 camera at 300 frames per second, ensuring the sequence was recorded in a specific order rather than in real time. The train scene, where Carter's car gets smashed, was one of the toughest to film. They used a replica of the original car, which was cut in half before shooting. Sonderhoff mentioned that, to keep the actors safe, they made sure there was no real sheet metal in the vehicle. For the death scenes, the team relied on life casts of the actors and chocolate syrup to simulate blood. According to the crew, planning the Rube Goldberg effect for Miss Luton's death was the most challenging part. Perry noted that it was quite difficult to create a sense of dread and build suspense from scenes that are typically ordinary. Soundtrack. There wasn't an official soundtrack released for the movie, but it does include 6 songs. The standout track is Rocky Mountain High by John Denver, which plays a significant role throughout the film, serving as a poignant reminder of Denver's tragic plane crash. You'll hear the song right before a character faces an accident or meets their end, and it's also performed in French by a street musician, Alessandro Giuliani. Other tracks in the film are 100 Grand by Pete Atherton, featured during the Flight 180 memorial scene, Into the Void by 9 Inch Nails in the cafe scene, All the Candles in the World by Jane Siberry during Carter's car scene, and When I Die by Joe 90, which plays during the end credits. Score. Final Destination, the complete original motion picture score, hit the shelves on March 17, 2000. The score was led by Shirley Walker, a composer who has won a Daytime Emmy Award. Box office. The movie made its debut on March 17, 2000, showing in 2,587 theaters throughout the U.S. and Canada. It raked in $10 million during its opening weekend, averaging $3,900 per theater. Final Destination landed at number 3 at the U.S. box office for its opening weekend, trailing behind the biopic Erin Brockovich and the sci-fi flick Mission to Mars. It held onto the number 3 spot for its second weekend, but slipped to number 7 by the third weekend. The film continued to decline in rankings over the following weekends until it dropped out of the top 10 after its 8th weekend. It stayed in theaters for a total of 22 weekends, with its final showing in 105 theaters, bringing in $53,000 and landing at number 56. Overall, Final Destination grossed $53.3 million in the U.S. and Canada, and an additional $59.5 million internationally, totaling $112.8 million worldwide. Home media. Final Destination hit the shelves on VHS and DVD on September 26, 2000, thanks to New Line Home Video in both the USH and Canada. The DVD comes packed with bonus features like 3 audio commentaries, 3 deleted scenes, and 2 documentaries. The first commentary features Wong, Morgan Reddick, and editor James Koblenz, who dive into the subtle details the creative team wove into the film, hinting at or foreshadowing the characters' deaths, elements that might go unnoticed during the first viewing. They also share insights about the filmmaking process and their battles with New Line Cinema executives over various aspects of the project. In the second commentary, Sawa, Smith, Cloak, and Donella chat about the behind-the-scenes work for specific scenes and their casting experiences. The third commentary showcases the isolated music score by Walker that accompanies the film. As for the deleted scenes, they explore 2 subplots involving Alex and Clear, an alternate ending where Alex dies after saving Clear from live wires, Clear having a baby she names Alex, and the conclusion where Clear and Carter emerge as the last survivors. The first documentary, called A Look at Test Screenings, lasts 13 minutes and explains the test screening process, providing insights into how these screenings were carried out and evaluated. It includes footage of the audience during the test screening and highlights specific feedback on why certain scenes were either removed or reshot. The second documentary, named Premonitions, focuses on Pam Coronado, a real high intuitive investigator who has assisted law enforcement in solving numerous murder and missing person cases using her psychic skills. This featurette is 20 minutes long. Some DVD editions also come with 2 non-DVD realm games, Death Clock and Psychic Test, along with the film's theatrical trailer and the cast and crew's filmographies. The Blu-ray disc version was released on April 7, 2009, and it includes most of the bonus features found on the DVD. Critical analysis. Rotten Tomatoes, a site that compiles reviews, found that 37% of critics rated the film positively out of 98 reviews, resulting in an average score of 4.9 out of 10. The consensus from critics on the site notes, even with a team of X-Files veterans and an intriguing concept, lackluster performances and poor execution prevent Final Destination from truly taking off. On Metacritic, the film holds a weighted average score of 39 out of 100 from 28 critics, suggesting generally unfavorable reviews. On June 14, 2010, Nick Hyman from Metacritic included Final Destination in a list titled 15 Movies the Critics Got Wrong. pointing out that the intricate suspense and action sequences from the first two films are more impressive than most. Meanwhile, audiences surveyed by Cinema Score gave the film an average grade of B- on a scale from A+ to F. On the downside, Stephen Holden from the New York Times remarked that even by the low standards of teen horror, Final Destination feels dramatically flat. Kevin Maynard from Mr. Showbiz called the film crude and lacking in wit. Rita Kempley from the Washington Post suggested that Your Own Final Destination might just be the box office where you'll want to ask for your money back. Jay Carr from the Boston Globe remarked that the film begins with defying death and concludes by deceiving us. Lisa Al Spector of the Chicago Reader found it disturbing, though not as refined as the top-tier sci-fi horror shows. Luke Thompson from the Dallas Observer considered it a squandered opportunity with a solid concept. Ernest Hardy of LA Weekly pointed out that the film fails because it takes itself too seriously while also not serious enough. Barbara Scholl-Gasser from the Chicago Tribune noted that it lives up to the low expectations of a subpar TV movie. Walter Diego of the San Francisco Examiner described it as foolish, ridiculous, and bloody. The movie received a warm reception from several prominent critics. Roger Ebert from the Chicago Sun-Times enjoyed it, awarding 3 out of 4 stars and noting that Final Destination is sure to be a success and will likely lead to the usual sequels. Much like the original Scream, this film is too good to be the final chapter. I can already picture more to come. He also highlighted the parallels between the film's plane crash and the real-life TWA Flight 800 disaster in 1996, which he deemed in the worst possible taste. Mick LaSalle of the San Francisco Chronicle commended the film for being playful and energetic enough to keep viewers on their toes. Joe Layton from Variety remarked that it creates a solid amount of suspense and takes some surprising twists while exploring familiar themes, while Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times called it a fantastic debut for TV veterans Glenn Morgan and James Wan. Chris Kaltenbach from the Baltimore Sun described the film as fitfully thrilling, and Maitland McDonough of TV Guide said it was adequate enough provided you approach it with low expectations. Marjorie Baumgarten from the Austin Chronicle referred to it as a flawed but frequently entertaining teen horror movie. Even though the film received a mixed response overall, critics had good things to say about Sawa's portrayal of Alex. David Nusser from Real Film Reviews noted, Sawa's charming performance as the lead is complemented by a solid supporting cast filled with recognizable faces like Sean William Scott, Brendan Fair, and Tony Todd. Lee Don added that Sawa convincingly plays the second-sighted Alex. Unlike many teen actors, he actually looks like he could still be in high school, but the supporting cast varies in quality. Lee Saw also highlighted the chemistry between Sawa and Ali Lauder, mentioning that Lauder and Sawa, who becomes increasingly disheveled and intense as the story unfolds, make a great duo. Accolades. The movie made a significant impression on horror fans, winning the Saturn Award for Best Horror Film in 2000. That same year, Sawa took home the Saturn Award for Best Performance by a Younger Actor, while Lauder snagged the Young Hollywood Award for Breakthrough Performance by a Female. At the 2001 Blockbuster Entertainment Awards, both Sawa and Lauder received nominations for Favorite Actor in Horror from Internet Only and Favorite Actress in Horror from Internet Only, but they lost out to David Arquette and Neve Campbell from Scream 3. Additionally, cinematographer Robert McLaughlin was nominated for Best Cinematography in a Theatrical Feature at the Canadian Society of Cinematographers Awards in 2001, but he lost to Pierre Gil for his work on The Art of War. The film's premise was ranked number 46 in Channel 4's 100 Greatest Scary Moments, with Smith representing it. The Flight 180 explosion scene made it onto several lists of the best fictional plane crashes or disaster scenes, featured by Break Studios, Unreality Magazine, NewMovies.net, The Jetpacker, Maxim Online, and Film Site. Film site also highlighted a plane scene and the deaths of characters Todd, Terry, and Miss Luton in its scariest movie moments and scenes, as well as all fatalities in its best film deaths scenes. Detmer's character's death was noted in lists of the most shocking film deaths by George Wells and Simon Kinnear from Total Film, Simon Hill from Eat Horror, and Dirk Sonnyson from Mania.
I'll see you soon.
Thank you for showing love to the video, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like the video by hitting the thumbs up and subscribe and share with your family and friends. This content is created by a true fan of horror for hardcore horror nerds. Your support is truly appreciated.